Cigarettes should be a class 1 drug. They don't have any accepted medical use and have a high potential for abuse. I think it's Schedule 1 drug, not class 1, right?
In the States, right?
Yeah, I might be mixing that up. Anyway, I'm so sick and tired of the idea of smoking being cool or classy. It's not. I also don't understand why the health society doesn't have a bigger problem with this. If you ask me, it's not enough that it's prohibited in certain public spaces. Since smoking has no medical use, combined with its high potential for abuse and addiction, it needs to be treated with the severity it deserves. Cristine, I might be dating us, but do you remember as a child, little baby Simply,
Smoking.
when we went to...
Like, what?
Were you a smoking baby? No. When we went to restaurants as a kid...
People would smoke inside, but there was a smoking
the
section.
The first thing you'd be asked is, do you want to be in the smoking section?
Wow, that's wild.
And the funniest thing about that, or the stupidest thing about that more, is the fact that you're putting all the smokers on one side of a room doesn't limit the smoke to that area. It would just mean the entire restaurant smelled like smoke.
Yeah.
That wasn't that long ago, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're 32, so. But I remember that too. And then there was a time when it became law in our province at some point where restaurants could not do that anymore.
Yeah.
They had to go to the patio smoking section.
I think some bars put up a fight about that.
Yeah.
A lot of bars weren't happy about that,
because
right?
they were losing some customers. So I understand from a business perspective why that made them unhappy.
Yeah. I think it's smoking is increasingly unpopular and not perceived as being cool or classy, particularly among young people.
And I think that you're right. I would say that. And I think that has been caused by a lot of even government run campaigns where they're trying to make smoking not cool anymore. Like there was an era maybe 10 years ago where there was a ton of ads, at least where we live, I remember them, basically suggesting you're not the cool kid if you do this, and showing the last single teenager smoking as a loner and isolating that person in the advertisement. I vividly remember this because the government was trying really hard to send that message. And I think that paired with just overall, in movies, we started to see it less. The hot, sexy woman was no longer just smoking cigarettes all the time for no reason in movies. And we have seen that kind of just change in the culture and the media that we consume. Yeah,
I would say the media is probably, my hunch is the media shift is a bigger factor than government PSAs. But I also don't want to underplay how much it matters that packaging and regulations about packaging
That
on
too.
cigarettes having to show you people with diseased lungs and things like that.
I remember that.
I wonder how much of an impact that actually had on people.
I think a big one. A lot has changed, clearly. Way less people that I know today smoke than the number of people I knew 15 years ago.
The perspective that it should be treated in the same category of drugs as heroin, though, I guess there's a lot to unpack here. My general perspective is that you treat people's addiction to these things as public health issues rather than criminalizing it. So I don't exactly know what this person is proposing.
Yeah, I don't think it would make sense to serve someone a 20-year sentence for smoking cigarettes.
Yeah, but I don't think that's what's really being implied here as much as it should be highly regulated because it is highly addictive and serves no medical benefit, right? So I actually think there is an argument to be made about that.
But if it's not regulated, then it will go underground, and then you'll have people producing and buying cigarettes in unsafer conditions.
And people already buy illegal cigarettes. Yeah, but that's the thing. When you try to regulate these things more often, you just see a black market occur. And Canada recently, a couple of years ago, legalized cannabis. And that doesn't mean illegal sources of cannabis just went away overnight, right? A lot of the sort of analysis going on now is trying to understand who is buying it legally, how much of it's still being bought illegally, and that's supporting, when you buy it illegally, you're basically funding criminal enterprises at least at some level, right? But yeah, I think we're kind of aligned that we both sort of favor not really criminalizing these things so much as regulating them and giving people treatment if they need it.
And I think education is also a really important factor because the best way to convince someone to not do something anymore is not to tell them they can't do it or to make laws necessarily against it. It's to show them why it's not good for them or their future or their kids' future. So education has been a really good motivator, I think, in the past couple decades.
Sure. It's assuming like people are making these decisions rationally. Smoking is one of those weird things too. Like, I don't understand how people start smoking. Like, no one likes the first time they smoke a cigarette, right?
No, I hated it.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
I told this story. I like tried to smoke.
Yeah, and I think a lot of
then I
people
hated it.
have maybe tried it once or done it casually. But it's, yeah. Honestly, like, I think there's an argument to be had that smoking of cigarettes or anything else, and like I'm mostly thinking of weed because of the smell, the way it impacts the people around you makes me think it should be more highly regulated. Like, because I know there's like this perspective that like you can do whatever you want in the privacy of your home. But if you live in a condo building next door to someone who smokes all day, that is affecting my enjoyment of my property. And you even see like condos now. This came up a lot when cannabis was being legalized in Canada. A lot of condo buildings or corporations will have bylaws that limit what people can do in their units, like smoke, right? I think we saw examples of that.
Yeah, the condo I used to live in did a survey of residents because you need like, I don't know how it works in other provinces or states, but at least where we are, if you can get a certain amount or proportion of owners in a condo building to agree to a bylaw, then you can pass it. And one of the ones they were proposing was no smoking in units because there were so many reports of the smoke traveling between their filtration system. So if you weren't a smoker, or maybe you have an allergy to smoke, or you're very sensitive, whatever the reason, your neighbor was technically allowed to smoke however much they want, and then all of a sudden you're breathing it in because it's right there.
Yeah,
so.
And that's like super disgusting and unreasonable. It would be like if you were just like a hoarder who like spilled milk all over your apartment and you just fucking reeked all the time. Like that, I don't care that you have the right to spill milk. Like, fuck off. You're just affecting my ability to enjoy my life.
So what's the solution, though? Because, like, full disclosure, Ben and I do not smoke. Like, we aren't smokers. So it's easy for us to say, like, just don't smoke in your house. Sorry, because we don't want to smell it, you know? But I understand, or I've tried to understand, because there have been people in my life who were daily smokers, and it was not something that they felt or could they couldn't just give that up, right?
Yeah, because it's addictive.
Exactly. Yeah. So like, what is the solution, and what can you tell those people? Like, you can't tell them you're gonna have to leave your house and you're gonna have to walk, a mile or however long until it's clear out of the condo.
You can't tell them that?
I don't know. This is why I understand the struggle, why it's not so easy to just impose that, and why people fight it. I'm
not suggesting we ban people from society or any housing. Right? Yeah, these are people with addiction issues too, right? If we're talking about things other than cigarettes as well. But I don't think it's unreasonable to expect people to not smoke in their units because it's affecting their neighbors' ability to enjoy being in their homes.
Yeah, and people should consider their neighbors, and like, what if their neighbor has a newborn baby and now it's inhaling smoke? Like, that's terrible. And I hope that people think of that and consider others and the repercussions of like your own actions on others when you are smoking.
There's also ways of enjoying things without smoking them.
Well, that's only if you're talking about weed.
Okay. Yeah, good. Well, no, I could put like, if you're just addicted to nicotine, I guess you could just put a patch on, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't known a lot of people in my life who were addicted to cigarettes, let's say.
I've known a few, and most of the ones I've known have voiced in the past that they want to quit. They wish that they could, but they weren't necessarily committing to it either. So I feel kind of bad for those people, because that there's a part of them that wishes they weren't doing this and wish it could be easy to just quit. So that's why I have some sympathy. And like, what are you going to tell these people? They just like have to completely leave their homes. Like, it's tough. And it's also not that easy for them to just stop. It's not.
I totally appreciate that, but I guess I'm a little less sympathetic than you.
Sure. Try to understand. But anyway. But should it be a class 1 drug? I don't know about that, because I don't think like heavily criminalizing it will
But again,
work.
It's not about criminalizing. Should it just be highly regulated? Should it be very difficult to buy cigarettes at all? What if they just made it like so you couldn't buy cigarettes?
What if they made it really expensive, like ridiculous?
Well, they already do that, eh? They're way more...
Oh, yeah.
Buying legal cigarettes is way more expensive than it is to make them.
From the tobacco, yeah.
Yeah. And actually, that's probably the most effective measure.
And isn't that a really good revenue source for the government?
Yeah, I'm sure smokers hate this though.
They hate this
It's
idea,
just like
but
a
the
giant
government makes a
tax
lot of
on-
money off of cigarettes.
off of
the sale of
sick,
cigarettes.
addicted people, I
Yeah,
guess.
and isn't that quite sad too?
I mean, I guess it's sad all around. But then I guess you worry, like, if you really start having conversations about limiting people's access to drugs, like at what point are you saying, like, caffeine is a drug?
Good point.
Or like alcohol. Should people not be able to walk into a store and buy alcohol?
Another good
At
point.
the end of the day, people are going to consume these things, whether they can get it from legal or illegal sources.
Yeah, and I think it's all up to you and your own personal decisions and how it makes you feel. Like, if you're not happy, if you are addicted to cigarettes and you're not happy about that fact, I hope that there's some resources you can find out there that will help you change that, you know, for your own betterment, to improve yourself and be happy with your life. But at the same time, if you like to occasionally smoke with friends, like, and it doesn't have a serious detriment to your life, I'm not going to yell at you
But
either.
it is gonna. I don't like, even casual smoking is not good for you.
Well, yeah, my personal choice is not to smoke at all.
Yeah.
But am I going to yell at someone for smoking a cigarette once every 3
A
months?
lot of people do things that aren't healthy to them
Exactly.
in terms of the things they eat. And
a lot
put
of
in
people
their
drink,
body.
like, drinking alcohol isn't healthy.
Yeah. So I guess as long as you're not hurting other people.
Yeah.
I just don't want anyone to read this and misunderstand that we're encouraging anything.
I don't think anyone is understanding that.
This will turn into a PSA.